Welcome to IFAX. The final whistle is blown at the New York, New Jersey Stadium, and while Spain is out there celebrating its newest trophy, the real winner is actually sitting quietly in an office over in Zurich. Behind those 104 matches lies the most successful business operation in the history of sports, a record-shattering $15 billion empire. So today we are doing a deep dive explainer into the staggering financial anatomy of the 2026 World Cup.
Yep, you heard that right. 15 billion with a B. While we were all glued to the beautiful game, FIFA was quietly revving up a $15 billion revenue engine. To put that into perspective for a second, if the World Cup were a traditional company, it would comfortably be sitting right there in the Fortune 500. This isn't just about selling some tickets and hot dogs anymore. We're talking about a highly calculated, meticulously executed financial machine that has fundamentally changed the business of sports forever.
Okay, let's dive into this. How exactly did FIFA turn a single tournament into a $15 billion windfall? Well, it all started with a strategy we'll call expansion for scale. Back in Qatar in 2022, we had 32 teams playing 64 matches, right? But for North America 2026, FIFA went big. They expanded the field to 48 teams, which resulted in a massive 104 matches across the US, Canada, and Mexico. More teams, more host cities, and critically, all those extra matches. This basically created an unprecedented commercial engine designed from the ground up for absolute maximum output.
And the results of that expansion are just wild. Just look at this massive revenue climb. Russia in 2018 brought in around $5.3 billion. Qatar in 2022 saw a pretty healthy jump up to $7.5 billion. But North America 2026? A staggering $15 billion. By expanding the tournament and dropping it right into the highly lucrative North American market, FIFA effectively doubled its revenue in just 4 years. I mean, it is an absolute masterclass in scaling up a product.
So broadcasting rights alone generated an estimated $4.3 billion. And a huge, sneaky part of this was the so-called hydration break. FIFA mandated a strict 3-minute pause midway through each half of all 104 matches. Now, traditionally, you'd only see these breaks used as a safety measure when the weather was dangerously hot. But in 2026, they became a guaranteed, locked-in feature of every single game, regardless of whether it was sweltering outside or a perfectly crisp 60 degrees. Now, officially, FIFA President Gianni Infantino completely rejected any suggestions that these breaks were created for commercial gain. He stated, and I quote, "No additional revenue. Decision taken only with sporting fairness and player welfare in mind," which, is a very noble stance on player welfare. But the reality of how television networks actually utilize these guaranteed pauses, well, it paints a slightly different picture. Think about it. Soccer has virtually no natural stoppages in play compared to, say, American football or basketball. So these mandatory hydration breaks were an absolute goldmine for broadcasters. Networks immediately cut away to full-screen ads during these pauses. And because the live audience for a World Cup game is just so gigantic, they were able to sell 30-second ad slots in the US for up to $750,000. Advertising experts pointed out these slots were actually eclipsing Super Bowl rates in some markets. FIFA handed the broadcasters the inventory and they cashed in on a massive scale. The ticketing and hospitality pillar alone saw an insane 216% explosion in revenue, bringing the total for this sector to a staggering $3 billion. And this massive spike was largely driven by a brand new strategy for FIFA, dynamic pricing. Much like booking a flight on a holiday weekend, FIFA allowed ticket costs to soar alongside demand in real time. When demand spiked, prices skyrocketed. While it undoubtedly maximized profits, it left everyday, loyal fans incredibly frustrated and completely priced out of the games they'd been waiting years to see. So the crucial point is how this completely shifted the accessibility of the event. Official seats for the final actually peaked at nearly $11,000. I mean, that is more than a full semester of university tuition just for 90 minutes of football. And if you were desperate enough to hit the secondary resale market, forget about it. Prices reached an unbelievable $60,000 for a single seat. While yes, a tiny fraction of $60 tickets did exist out there, this pricing model essentially transformed the beautiful game into an elite luxury asset. Even standard tiered pricing for the final was just astronomical. It scaled from over $2,000 for the lowest tier, all the way up to nearly $6,700 for Category 1. The backlash was actually so severe that US lawmakers challenged FIFA directly, demanding answers over this opaque pricing structure, not to mention the aggressive 15% fees FIFA was charging to both buyers and sellers on their official resale platform. They were double-dipping on every transaction. The competition off the pitch among global corporate giants was literally just as intense as the games themselves. For instance, Adidas went all in to dominate North America. They spent a staggering $94 million just on their Backyard Legends film, featuring superstars like Messi and Timothée Chalamet. And it paid off big time. Thematic merchandise sales hit $292 million before the first ball was even kicked. This frenzy, combined with a record $2.8 billion sponsorship pool, meant FIFA sold out all 16 of its global partner slots for the first time in history. Brands were paying up to $85 million just for the broadcast barrier benching.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer imbalance of risk. FIFA captured this $15 billion windfall without actually building a single stadium. Meanwhile, the host nations carried an immense financial burden. Mexico spent over $11 billion on massive infrastructure upgrades. Canada's bill topped $1 billion, and even local governments in the U.S. struggled immensely. New Jersey, for example, faced a $48 million deficit just for transport and security, all while FIFA naturally retained the highly profitable rights to stadium parking and all the in-stadium revenue.
As one independent economist perfectly summarized the situation, FIFA is the clear economic winner because it controls the tournament's most valuable and scalable revenue streams. The host carries the risk. While local economies do get a short-term bump from visitors buying food and booking hotel rooms for a month, it's FIFA that monopolizes the high-margin revenue streams, like TV rights, global sponsorships, and premium ticketing, for an entire 4-year cycle.
The lesson here is crystal clear, and it changes how we view sports as an enterprise. If you own a massive cultural moment, you can sell it in layers. From auctioning off 30-second ads during mandatory hydration breaks, to dynamic ticket pricing that pushes everyday seats to $11,000, to exclusive VIP hospitality, the 2026 World Cup essentially cemented a Super Bowl-style entertainment blueprint, but on a massive global scale.
But you know, this unprecedented financial success leaves us with a provocative, somewhat uncomfortable question to ponder. Will this aggressive financial engineering ultimately alienate the fans who made the game beautiful in the first place? When a sport fully transitions into a luxury asset, what happens to its soul? That right there is the true long-term cost of this $15 billion experiment, and it's a reality the sporting world is going to have to grapple with very soon.
And that brings us to the end of today's analysis. Thank you so much from the entire IFAX team for joining me on this explainer. If you found this breakdown of the World Cup's financial anatomy as fascinating as we did, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden numbers that run our world. See you next time.